what limiting beliefs might you have that are holding back your partner? And just as importantly, what limiting beliefs might your partner have, even if they're not aware of them, that might be holding you back?
That was the thing. I didn't trust myself and recognize that the people around me had so many limiting beliefs and they were holding me back. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast. Today, for episode number 119, we have for you, do you feel held back by your partner? So I'm going to answer first. No, I don't, but I have felt this in the past, and it sucks. So if you're out there and you do feel that way, there is something you can do about it. Before we jump into this episode, we want to give a huge shout out to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and so many others all around the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you for spreading personal growth, self-improvement, mental health, all of those things. And I couldn't think of the fourth one. Sweetheart, as always, ladies first, what's your intention for today's episode?
My intention is for our listeners in this community to be way more aware of those little moments, those little pings that we all get when we feel held back by our partner, if that happens to be your experience, and to listen into those pings better, because they're an indicator on so many different levels as to where to go and not to go in your relationship. And I wish I had this episode when I was younger and or at a sooner point in my relationships, because this is such an important topic. When you feel held back, there is nothing worse than that from someone who is aspiring. So my intention is for our listeners to help tune into that a little bit more.
All right. So huge shout out to my business partner, Kev, for this. He has owned this, which I'm very, very proud of him for that. Yeah. So he's shared this on our podcast, Next Level University, several times. So I got permission in advance to share this story. Okay. So my business partner, Kev, he shares a story about how in his mid-20s, he was dating a woman named Leah, and Leah was a dream chaser. And Leah wanted to go to California and chase her dreams. And Kev gave her every reason under the sun, gas prices, all the reasons why she shouldn't do it, when deep down he has since admitted in his maturity that he was actually just deeply fearful and insecure, and he had a lot of limiting beliefs. So I asked him in depth, why did you do that? And he said, I didn't believe in myself. Yeah. And I had just gotten a job making six figures that I didn't think I could ever get. And I figured that I would never get another job like that. So I have to stay here. Mm-hmm. And so that's a good example of his limiting beliefs, literally holding back his partner, Leah. And Leah, and this is his words, not mine, he said, Leah did the right thing and she left my ass. No, he playfully says it, but he does say Leah left me, and that's exactly what she should have done because I was holding her back. Yeah. And so if you've ever felt held back in an intimate relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave your partner, but there does have to be some sort of at least a discussion. Either that or you have to allow yourself to be stuck. Yeah, and stuck I was in a past relationship, not with Alan at all. Matter of fact, it's leagues different, and it's so beautiful to have this, and this is why I want to really have this conversation and why this podcast, babe, is so, from my perspective, so important, because for dream chasers, you and I are on that end, and we have been so held back by our partners of the past. And again, a lot of it's unintentional, because the thing about limiting beliefs, and everyone has them, it's just to what degree are you aware and in control, and transforming a limiting belief into an empowering is the question mark here. So everyone has a limiting belief. And we've had relationships where those have been very prevalent. And a past version of me had been in a relationship with someone for honestly far too long. Hindsight's always 20/20. And I had been in this relationship for, I think, a total of 8 years. And
there were so many pings at the very beginning of our relationship that were pings to my intuition that I was being held back, but I didn't know it at the time. Again, towards my intention for this episode to help our listeners tune into those intuitive pings. I didn't know it consciously, but what it felt like was the feeling of being held back. And the great example that I can give for this episode is I was always someone, and am someone, because this currently still is who I am, who always wanted to challenge herself. I always wanted to challenge myself beyond what I currently believed I was capable of. And when you believe that you're capable of something and you go for it, that's someone who has empowering beliefs. But when you're someone who doesn't believe in something and doesn't go for it, that's where your limiting beliefs lie. And I didn't realize that I was the person that had those beliefs in my capabilities and would go for it anyways, regardless of how dumb it made me look, regardless of how challenging it was going to be, regardless of what was on the other side, kind of just free falling into the next chapter after chapter. And my partner, in hindsight, was the person that had the limiting beliefs, but never, ever had the self-awareness to be able to admit that level like Kev did in this situation to me.
Kev did after the fact.
He did, right? Because we're not, honestly, a lot of us aren't aware of our limiting beliefs, and we're too insecure. A lot of us don't
even know what the beliefs are.
Yeah.
Because they're unconscious or subconscious.
Exactly. So the ping that definitely was one of them was I was someone, like I said, always wanted to challenge herself, always wanted to like kind of free fall and see what my capabilities were and like just evolve who I was. And I distinctly remember being, especially I feel like it was like around like 17, 18. This was like 3 years. I had been saying that I wanted to do a Spartan race and a Tough Mudder. And like, I was just always so drawn to that level of self-competition. And we grew up in Western Mass. So obviously you can kind of put together your own Tough Mudder if you really wanted to in your backyard. But like, I wanted to be a part of that community because they were people that pushed themselves from what I perceived. And I remember having conversations with my family and no one was for it. But then when I had the conversation with my partner, do you want to do it with me? It was like always kind of like yeah, sure. But like, you could tell in their energy, he was not on board. And so like, that was the ping for me. Like, okay, why is he not fully on board? Why is he not as excited? Maybe he's not necessarily as much into fitness, but he had played football. So what are the things that are a little different here that my intuition is picking up on? Is he not supportive of me? Does he not actually want to do it? And that was the ping. The ping was that he actually had a limiting belief. He had a limiting belief in his capability. He had a limiting belief that I would probably kick his ass in this Tough Mudder and in hindsight Spartan race, because now I recognize like a little crazy when it comes to that physicality stuff, you know, but that was the thing. I didn't trust myself and recognize that the people around me had so many limiting beliefs and they were holding me back.
I just had a very juvenile moment, for lack of immature moment, of you were with a partner who you could beat at a Tough Mudder. I had that moment of no chance you're beating me, love. But I would love to do one. We should do it.
Well, see, that's what I'm talking about. You don't have a limiting belief. Yeah. So even that, like, I'm so happy that just happened for our listeners, because even that, babe, like, you have a empowering belief. It could be delusional. We'll see. I'll catch you on the field.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Yeah. Alan would wipe my butt when it came to any running part.
Wipe your butt.
He would wipe the walls. Yeah. Wipe the walls with my butt. No. But no, you would crush me when it comes to the running part. I mean, other parts will not. We'll have to find out. TBD. But anyways, that's a great display when it comes to you have the empowerment belief.
If you ever want to do one, let me know.
It's going to happen.
Okay.
I promised it to myself. Whether you're on board or not, it's going to happen.
Nice.
But in hindsight, I am now more aware of some of my blind spots as a leader, where I didn't necessarily book it because I think deep down I knew intuitively that no one was going to do it with me. And so...
Well, if you do one, I will do one with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But you will have to lead, because that is not... Yeah. I led the marathon and that went horribly wrong. So I'll tell that story quickly. I wanted to prove to myself that I could run 25 miles without stopping.
Mm-hmm. You were also in a
26
cut, too.
26. Yeah, I was in a cut.
Hi, Amy and Chris Lennius here to give a quick moment of appreciation for Alan and Emilia. We have been working with them for a few months now, maybe 6, maybe going on 6 months now, and we appreciate you guys so much. To see you guys work as a team, to help couples work as a team, is one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. Not only have you helped us reconnect and helped us with our marriage, you've also helped us through big life moments, with boundaries, with creating our own stable unit at home. We appreciate you guys so, so much.
Yes, truly heartfelt appreciate you guys and everything you've done for us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
We love you.
So Kevin and I, we had done a 10 pound in 10 week challenge. And whoever didn't lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks couldn't record an episode of Next Level University, which would break the streak because we are 1,700 episodes in now. And back then I think we were at 1,400 or something, but we had never missed an episode. And that's what we prided ourselves on. We always playfully joke and said, if we had to, we'd record from the hospital. Well, we almost had to. No, I'm kidding. So I had told Kev I've always wanted to see if I could do it. I always felt like I could run a marathon. And the first half marathon, so I did it. We were doing 10 pounds in 10 weeks, and it was Thursday, and we had to weigh in on Sunday. And it's the Thursday before, and I'm with Kev, and I'm like, dude, I still have 5 pounds to go. He's like, you are so screwed. And I was like, I know. So my brain's working, and I'm like, what if I were to do a marathon?
Right.
And do it dehydrated.
You
So that was really smart.
in 90-degree weather,
In
of the
90-degree
bowl
weather,
of
on
a
a
track
track,
that
on a
like
track.
keeps the heat in.
That track. So I had my phone on me too, and I tracked the number of laps every single time. Brutal. Don't do that. But Emilia supported me. She came. She brought me water, luckily, because I might have died of dehydration.
I did.
And she did the second half with me.
Yeah, I did a half
And-
marathon that day out of a whim.
Yeah.
And you did a full marathon on a whim. So like,
So the first half was actually fairly easy.
right.
The second half was alarmingly difficult.
Yeah.
Again, the sun came up. It was 90 degrees, and it was. I now
Ill
refer to
prepared.
that whole spot as the hot box because that was brutal.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the whole point of this whole thing is when you have a partner, even Emilia and I being playful right there, and her telling everyone that I would wipe her butt at a Spartan race. I wouldn't, but you'd have to wipe your own butt.
I think you have diapers at that point.
Yeah. But the point is when you are with a partner who doesn't have limiting beliefs or who believes in themselves, everything can be different.
Yeah.
And me and her are playful. I don't want to be better than her, but if I were to do a Spartan race, I'm not going to not beat her if I believe I can be at my best. So it's you against you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what we want this episode to really focus back in on is everyone out there has limiting beliefs. One of my favorite questions of all time, I asked to Emilia one time on a walk. I said, what's the limiting belief that has disguised itself as empowering?
So powerful.
If you've ever heard I can do anything I set my mind to, a lot of people think that's an empowering belief. It's not. It's inaccurate. You cannot do anything you set your mind to. You cannot beat LeBron James at basketball. You cannot be a quadrillionaire because they don't exist. You cannot fly. That won't go well if you jump off a cliff. But the point is that there's a lot that you can do.
Definitely.
There's a lot that you can do. And so in this episode, everyone please check in, as playful as it was. What limiting beliefs might you have that are holding back your partner? And just as importantly, what limiting beliefs might your partner have, even if they're not aware of them, that might be holding you back?
And here's the thing. This came up while we were a little bit earlier in the episode when we were talking about a little bit of our past and you were sharing the experience that Kev had with his partner. I know that there's so many people, it's kind of comical at this point, that are so... When Kev had listed, there's every reason in the book why Leah shouldn't go to the California.
Yeah.
We are so well conditioned to look out for what is wrong or what's going to be a challenge or what's going to be potentially risky or what is going to be hard or difficult. And so many family systems, culture systems, partner systems are wired to make sure that because we care about them, make sure that we highlight all the things that could go wrong. How often, this is the third question that I'm going to add on to that. How often is your partner sharing with you what can go right? When you start to try something new and those limiting beliefs do have an opportunity to rear their ugly heads, how often is there actually someone in your corner supporting you saying you actually can do this and trying to bust down your limiting belief? We had a relationship talks call, and I'll share this quickly, but where it was really, really cool to see one of our clients where one of the partners, she started to kind of imagine her future and what was possible for her. And it was really difficult. You could see in that moment, it was difficult for her to kind of imagine what that would be like in 10 years.
We were talking in the context of this, we were talking about a home in the future.
Yeah.
They wanted to have their own home and their own farm.
Yeah. And it was difficult for the imagination to kind of connect into that 10-year plan. And granted, that's hard in general. But what was awesome and what I want to highlight is that the partner, the male in the relationship, like took a moment and saw her limiting belief, which could have very much held them back if he didn't shift into this role, which was like very supportive, highlighting what is possible for her and just kind of sharing what she's been able to accomplish in a year. Like it was so cool because he was like, you got this. Like you can absolutely do it. Like imagine what we can do. Like look at what we've done in the last year. It was just so wonderful to see because how many of us have been in the position where when we do think about something that we want to do or accomplish in the future, even if it's small, how often is it that our partner will shift into the, oh, I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's doable. Like the doubtfulness.
And the thing that sucks about doubt is even if you don't achieve it, you're better off trying. Because when you try, you get new experiences. When you get new experiences, you get new knowledge. When you get new knowledge, you get new learning and new understanding, and then you can try again. And so at the very least, you got to give things a shot. And if you have a Debbie Downer partner who doesn't believe you can do it. So you had trouble believing that I could do a marathon on a whim. And
it was like
right.
a 1% of my 100% pie, essentially.
Well,
that was my 1% limiting belief. I was like 100.
It wasn't limiting. It was true. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, if I didn't bring you water, you would be done.
Yeah, exactly. So it's okay, babe. I did it. It's not like I trained for it. Like,
right.
Of course I could do one if I trained for it.
Right.
The point I'm trying to make is that you didn't allow your limiting belief to stop me from doing it.
Facts.
Even though you knew it wasn't what was best for me.
Facts.
You let me go and try.
Mm-hmm.
And I did end up weighing in, by the way, and I did make weight. Yeah. So
we're on the bed doing absolutely nothing for the next
entire
2 days.
next day.
It was brutal.
Yeah,
but
walking up the stairs was even brutal.
That was a badge of honor, though, that you'll forever have, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm just grateful I tried.
Yes.
Because I did the first half marathon, and now I know a half marathon is actually pretty easy. I was actually fairly cocky in the middle of it. Emilia showed up.
I have a video.
Yeah, Emilia showed up halfway through, and I was running backwards. And then by the end,
showing off for me. It was really cute.
I was showing off for her, which I should not have done, because by the end I was Old Man River. Yeah,
he couldn't even talk to me. It was the funniest thing ever. And yeah,
so the lesson in that is half marathon easy, full marathon impossible. I'm kidding, but at the end of the day, your limiting beliefs will stop you from trying, and stopping you from trying is the real detriment to your growth and to anything that could be possible. And Kev had listed out all the things for Leah of gas prices and cost of living and all the different things that could go wrong. But what could go right? You need to make sure you're doing both.
Exactly.
Some people are only focused on what can go right, and that's called delusion.
Right.
So you need both.
You need a little balance.
And so everyone, hopefully you can drive to 5 and stay centered and balanced. And maybe your partner is a little pessimistic because they're trying to balance out your delusion.
So true. I was just going to say, you might be on opposite ends of the spectrum and need a little bit of both. So if you're super pessimistic and never have optimism, maybe you need a little dose of optimism. And that's where your partner comes in because they're delusionally optimistic, like I was at one point.
Maybe that's another episode we do at some point.
Yeah, that is
because
a good one.
Balancing out. Sometimes when Emilia is super optimistic and super gung ho, I have to be the voice of reason.
Yeah,
and vice versa.
Yeah, like before this episode, Alan was like really relaxy taxi. I'm like, we got a lot to do, buddy. Let's go.
We gotta go. We need your humility to come up. We have to get this done. Okay, so speaking of that, we do got to jump. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it. If you are wanting help in your relationship talks coaching is the way. We will be in your corner. We have a hybrid model where we do one-on-one sessions. We have all kinds of different things. But the first one is free. At very least, give it a shot. You never know what can come of it. Mm-hmm. And the link to book the first one, and the first one's free, will be in the show notes.
Also in the show notes, as you know, and hopefully you know, at this point, but if you don't now, you know.
For new listeners,
we do a monthly free relationship talks event. This will be our 36th event by this time, so we have some good things a rolling.
That's 3 years.
Yeah,
it's
3
amazing. Years in
amazing. Well, I'm so grateful for the community that is always helping us to help these get better and share with us their vulnerable personal stories that really connect to the data and the research that we look at all the time to help guide relationships to grow together and not apart. So this one is going to be June 13th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You don't need to have your camera or your mic on. Just join us, hang out with us. And this topic will be about the 3 phases of conflict you must learn. Conflict is so fundamental in our human life existence, not to mention when it comes to our partnerships. And if you're not aware of how to work through that adaptively in a way that can help you to grow together, not apart, your relationship is headed down a rocky road. So we want to help you grow together.
Imagine a couple that can't handle conflict positively, constructively. It's impossible for them to be in love long term. It's impossible for them to build the bigger, better, brighter future. So come join us. 36 months, that's 3-year anniversary for Relationship Talks events. Wow.
Cool.
That's RTE 3-year anniversary. That's awesome.
Wow.
Okay, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate you. As always, it's not about you or me. It's about
The we.
We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is a Lazaros 88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.